Welcome to Agent Tactics. It's another Friday, every Friday, 10 a.m. Uh, Breaking news, we are moving real Agent Tactics next year to Thursdays at 10 a.m. Because I like to go golf on Fridays. Everybody golfs on Fridays and I can't go. So next year, we are moving everything to 10 a.m. on Thursdays. Our guest today, Blake Taylor out of the Austin area. Blake is phenomenal. If you don't know Blake or haven't heard his story, he's got a really good story to tell. He's one of those guys who went and started his own team, his own brokerage, and started doing a bunch of development deals, doing high-end luxury, doing all this fun stuff, but he didn't start there, right? So we're going to go through some of how he got there. We're going to go through kind of the hustle it takes to actually get to there. And then we're going to actually go through how to not get burnt out and maybe some of the systems. And then we'll talk maybe at the end, if people want to hear it, we'll talk about he actually brought his whole brokerage over to Real. So we can talk about that later if people are open to it. But Blake, welcome to Agent Tactics. It is good to have you, man.
Thanks for having me on, Jeremy. Always a blast to get to visit with you.
Well, look, every time I chat with you, I feel like I learned something new, even though I've been in the business 11 years. You've got just a plethora of knowledge. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the things that you've done over the last few years.
Sure. So I'm a Texas boy, born and raised, grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then moved to Austin to attend UT and never left. And so I obtained my real estate license actually while I was still studying undergrad at UT back in 2002. And at that point, it kind of in midstream in my undergraduate career, decided that real estate was the career path that I wanted to pursue. And so worked part-time for a broker close to the university until I graduated. And then I worked for a couple of firms, a brokerage firm downtown and then a development company downtown for a couple of years until I established my own firm in 2006. And so I've been independent for 18 years now and been in the business for about 22. And then my wife and I work together both on the brokerage side, and we also have a small development company that we handle commercial land and residential land development projects and entitlement out in the hill country near Lake Travis and the Highland Lakes area. And then we do some single family and small multifamily construction as well, single family homes and some townhome projects.
Yeah, I'd love to chat a little bit about breaking into that development because I feel like there's such an opportunity that agents don't think about, right? Because you can become a partner on a deal, you can represent the deal, become a partner on the deal, and then when that deal sells, you're making more than what you would have made just on a 3% commission. So I'd love to chat about that a little bit. But let's talk about some of the systems that got you here, right? Because I feel like we don't talk about systems enough. I'm in the process of growing our team. We're adding agents to our team, but having the right systems and the right back end is really, really important. Otherwise, you're just not going to grow. So tell us about some of the systems it takes to actually grow a team or to actually grow your business.
Yeah, so I essentially think that as a realtor, you have three jobs, and your three jobs are to lead generate to prospect, right? Uh, Two is to build either systems and processes or build a team that can handle operations and cater to the client, right? You want to take great care of them. And then your third job is to count the money. So you've got to track your finances. And I think that a lot of these systems for me came into play when I sort of reached a pivot point in my career back in 2015. So um, we started our own company in 2006. My wife and I got married in '07, and for a number of years, we kind of churned through kind of constant turnover. We went through the recession in '08 and lost a bunch of people, and then kind of built back in 10, 11, 12. And in 2011, we had our first son was born, and then in 2015, my wife was pregnant with our second son, who's now about to turn 10 years old. And at that time, pregnancy was hard on her. She was very sick for kind of all 9 months through the process, and we had an ornery 3-year-old toddler at home. And on top of that, I was working 7 days a week, 65-hour weeks, and I was just sort of miserable. And it got to a point where I said, I either have to find a way to evolve our business, or I've got to find a different career path because I just can't keep this up for 20 more years and raise a family. And so at that time, I went out and searched for a coach, and that brought me into we found a coach that we hired, and that sort of just completely transformed our business, because that was really the start of building a team and putting repeatable processes and systems in place that would allow us to track our metrics and really operate more as a business owner instead of just a salesperson running around chasing deals.
So
And
let's talk about some of those systems. What were the systems that helped you get away from working 60 plus hours a week?
so I think a lot of it starts around, people get into real estate because they want to be their own boss and they want freedom to set their own schedule. But the problem that comes with that is that really what ends up happening is you end up becoming beholden to the will of the client or the will of the prospect, unless you set boundaries for yourself. And so I think all success in systems and tracking starts in discipline around scheduling your calendar and blocking out time for all the things that you need to do in a day. And one of the things I learned from the coach that I was with is that you have to start with what's most important. And so for me, that's family time and personal time, because I find that if I don't protect my time with my family, nobody else will, right? That client is going to ask to look at, a house on, Sunday afternoon or Saturday night when one of my kids has a soccer game or whatever it may be. Um, so I start with blocking out time specifically to spend with my wife and kids, and then also personal time for me to exercise, because that's what keeps me sane. And so typically my exercise is in the morning, and then depending on the time of year and what kids are doing, I'm gonna block in, their lacrosse practice, their mountain bike practice, their Boy Scout events, whatever it is that's on the calendar, and those are gonna get blocked out first. Then behind that, I'm going to bring in all of my sales activity. So the non-negotiables are, your outbound prospecting, and there's a number of different ways that you can do that. But that's making videos on YouTube, that's sending out emails, that's making calls on the phone. But the non-negotiable there is that you can move that time, but you can't delete it, right? So you've got to set that in. And then the third time is everything else. It's all the admin, the paperwork, transaction maintenance, compliance, making sure that kind of all the stuff that we have to do to remain compliant as a business and keep deals moving along. Email, that's a huge time suck. Those are all the things that come last in terms of blocking out the calendar. And then once you block out the calendar, you've got to track everything. So we track outbound prospect activity. So that's weekly calls, emails, videos, and meetings that we have with people. We track leads. We track six buckets of where those leads are coming from. Are they coming from referrals? Are they coming from business partners, mortgage lenders, title people, some of our construction vendors, whether it's our electrician or plumber, and then we track what the conversion on those leads look like. How many contracts are we writing, and then how many are getting to the closing table, so we can understand. You can, and then what you can end up doing is you set your goals, and you can back into the sales volume that you're producing is based on the number of closings, from the number of deals written, from the number of leads generated, from the amount of outbound activity. And so it all starts with the prospecting, but you work from the end back to the beginning to get to the number that you need.
So let's talk about some of those systems though. Like, so tracking, how are you actually tracking that? What systems are you using to actually track?
So for our CRM, we use Follow Up Boss. I know other people use Lofty, they use Salesforce, they use back in the day we used Top Producer. Um, but for us, we like Follow Up Boss. It's a great platform, and it allows us to be able to communicate with our team in a central timeline on a client. So like one of the things I like about it is it has the entire client history in one place where everybody on our team can look at it. Um, but for lead gen, I still export to an Excel file once a month out of Follow Up Boss and look at that because it's just easy for me to be able to look at that spreadsheet report and go, hey, this is what we did for the month. This is what we've written. This is what we've converted. Um, and so we're tracking basically 6 buckets of leads, whether they're referrals, business partners, web-based leads, if they're coming from, a portal like Zillow or Realtor.com or Homes.com. And then we're tracking the conversion ratios to each of those buckets.
So, okay. So besides Follow Up Boss, then how are you managing, like what other systems are you using to manage your, like we use, I use Flowdesk for things. I mean, I have so many different things. There's a Asana that can actually like manage some of that stuff. Are you using just Follow Up Boss or what else are you using?
We use the whole G Suite, which all integrates with so our Google Calendar integrates with Follow Up Boss, but really
Hmm.
Follow Up Boss is pretty holistic in terms of pulling in leads, tying in if you set an appointment or schedule a call, it's going to sync to the Google Calendar and show up there. Um, you can also track deal flow through it. We do use a third-party transaction management system. We've used Brokerment in the past. Currently, we're using Rezen, which is the in-house tool that Real Broker provides.
Nice.
Um, and and then, like I said, I'm still kind of a paper and ink guy, so I still like to export those reports to an Excel file and just look at them. Because for me, that's an easy way to quickly digest once a month, what we did for the month and where we are with it.
All right. So you put together some systems that are beneficial for you to track everything. Let's get to the lead gen part, right? The lead
Mhm.
gen part. How are you? Like, let's say somebody like me or Tomcat just jumped on here. Let's say we want to go after some of these development deals, right? What's the process from almost like a 30,000 foot overview? I want to take on and find somebody to build 30 units that I'm going to sell all 30 units or buy 30 units that I'm going to then be a part of the sell as an LP on or something on. Like, what's
Right.
the start? Who do I go to? Who do I call? What's the first call you make?
So we would refer to that as a whale, but somebody that you can basically generate a channel account through where you've got multiple sales. And uh, first thing you're going to try to do is identify the profile of the client that you're looking for. So if you're looking for a developer, a builder that you want to partner with and try to sell a project for, uh, first thing I'm going to start is creating a target list of people and putting those into Follow Up Boss, into our CRM, and then putting them on a campaign for 10, 12 weeks and see who engages. Um, and some of that just takes elbow grease. It can be looking in the business journal, looking at the Statesman, seeing what projects are in the news, what's coming up. You can pull permit history from the local county authority to see who's filing construction permits or engineering permits. Also, a good source for us in the past had been that we were a sponsor of the local home building association. And so we would attend, like there used to be an Austin Infill Builders luncheon once a month, and we would go and attend that, and we would circulate the room and introduce ourselves to people, find out what they're working on, what challenges do they have, and what you're always looking for is a problem that you can help them solve, right? So either they're looking for dirt or they're looking for land to be able to build on. They have a piece of land and they're trying to figure out what is the best type of product that we should design for this piece of land that we have. Or perhaps they've got a project that's underway and they're trying to generate some sales velocity on it, or they're sitting on inventory that they need to unload. So wherever they are in that construction development cycle, you want to try to identify what their challenge is and then how you can help them fix it.
Okay, so let's say I found somebody who has 30 units, or they're going to be building 30 units. They don't have an agent to sell those 30 units.
Mhm.
What's your first, how do you first approach that person, right?
You've got to bring them value.
Okay.
So one of the first builders that we ever began to partner with back in 2009 was working on a small infill project in the Hyde Park area. And at that time, they had the first phase under construction, and they had an agent. Excuse me, hold on. Sorry, allergies are getting me. They had an agent, and but they had not made a bunch of sales, and we were still kind of coming out of the recession at that point back in late 09. And we brought them 2 buyers in that first phase. And every time I bring a buyer, I'd say, "Hey, we can help you get more. If you ever need help, give us a call." And we would just kind of continue following up until finally he said, "Okay, I'll give you the listing. Like when this listing expires, I'll give you guys a shot at it." And we went through and we performed, and then from there we had all of his business for the next 10 years.
Okay. So go out and find stuff that's sitting stalled and try to bring buyers to it. That's one. What's another way?
Uh, you meet with architects. So architects are a good one because a lot of times they may be designing something for a builder, but the builder may not have the right product mix for what they're uh, trying to propose, right? And so one of the things that we do a lot of times is we'll provide a feasibility study for a builder, and we'll say, "Hey, you've got a 1 acre lot that's zoned SF4 in the middle of the city. Based on the zoning and the setbacks and the other constraints of the lot, you can get 50,000 square feet or 25,000 square feet of buildable, sellable square footage out of the property. Now, what does the ideal product mix want?" And we'll give them a synopsis that says, "Hey, in the area, these are the price points that are selling the fastest. This is the size of the unit, the square footage, the bedroom, bathroom count that buyers are looking for. These are the features that they're looking for. They want hardwood floors. They want, mixed metal uh, plumbing fixtures and lighting. They want, level 5 drywall finish. They want, whatever the specific attributes are that we believe are marketable based on the other recent sales in the area." And with the idea being that you're trying to help them design a product that will sell the fastest for the highest dollars possible, for the best profit possible. And so we're saying, "Hey, spend your money here and not there," as you're putting dollars into your construction budget.
That would make a really great YouTube video, right? Because I see so many times, like when we look, a prime example, I've got clients that have a 4,500 square foot home in a neighborhood. Well, what are people buying in that neighborhood? They're buying 3,100 square foot single story homes. They're not buying 4,500 square foot homes. So
Exactly.
I know a lot of us will advise our clients like, "Hey, look, I know you want to buy this specific home, but when we look at what's actually selling in here, this home's actually going to be harder to resell in the future. Maybe you want to buy a single story, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, right? Or something like that. Or, hey, look, this has brown cabinets and ugly paint. This home, when you buy it, just know you're either going to have to change out these cabinets, paint the house, add all these features in, because when you go to resell it, it's going to be the ugliest house based on everything. So you're getting a deal on it now, but these are things you're going to need to change on it in order to sell it in the future." I feel like we already do that at such a high level as agents. I mean, how many in here have told clients, "Don't buy this house," or "Don't do this," or "Don't do that"? One of the things that and you could drop a comment in the chat box. I appreciate that. And make sure you're all here, especially Tomcat. In fact, just drop a 1 in the chat if you've ever had to tell a client, "Don't buy this house. This is not the right house for you." And that would actually make a really good video for you that coming on to look at video is creating a video where you say, "Hey, look, I had a client that was looking to buy this specific home. When we looked at it, I looked at all the homes around and said, this isn't going to sell in the future. Let's buy this house instead." and they end up buying that house, and then the success story that came with that house, right? Because when we're working with people, the whole thing is to build trust. And what you said right here is you're talking with somebody at a high level that's looking to build all of this product, but if they build the wrong product, it's going to sit forever, and you're saving them money just by making some small tweaks. You're going to actually make them more money. So telling that story to clients, I think, would help all of us sell a hell of a lot more homes, because that's where the trust is. I mean, who in this industry feels like people don't trust agents right now, and our commissions on the line because of everything they hear? You don't need an agent. Well, these are all the things that we should be telling clients, the success stories we've had, and potential clients, the success stories that we've had, and how we've looked at things and evaluated deals. I can tell you, I had somebody reach out to me on the YouTube channel, and they're like, "Hey, I want to write an offer on this deal. Will you give me a commission, a kickback on the commission?" I said, "No." And they're like, "What? Why would you not keep, like, we're just bringing you the deal. It's great." And I said, "Well, yeah. Do you want me to evaluate that deal? Do you want me to give you my expert opinion? Do you want me to make sure that that is the right deal? Because you think it's the right deal, but what happens when you buy it and it's the wrong deal? Do you want that? That's why you're hiring me. That's why you're paying me. That's why even the seller is offering you to pay my commission, because they want to make sure that you're buying the right home, because they don't want you to come back and sue them later, or me, or anybody else. So that's why." And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." And we put out on a contract on a $500,000 home, and it
Absolutely.
closed. So these are the stories, I think, that if you're looking at video, you should be telling more and more and more. We did a thing yesterday at Tom Ferry, and my good friend Shannon Mangian and I were on stage, and they showed a video of Shannon talking about a success story of helping a client buy a home, and it was them being excited about closing on the home and telling the story of how they reached out, and I love that, her story, because what was impressive about that, number one, it was telling people how to actually reach out to you. On my YouTube channel, when I talk about things, instead of saying we sell all these homes, I'll say, "Hey, look, we had a client that went into the description, they found the phone number in there, and they called us. We set up a meeting. They actually went through, they were going to buy this other house. We convinced them that that was the wrong house. And then at the end of the day, when the appraisal came back, they saved $130,000. Or we got them 70 grand off on new construction when they were only going to get 10 grand off, whatever it is." So those are the stories that we should be telling to bring value, not "I sold another home." All right. So one thing that we run into a lot, Blake, is as agents, is we have peaks and valleys, right? We spend all this time, we've built the systems. Then so we were earlier, if you're joining now, we were talking about building some systems. You've built the systems, you've done the lead generation, you've got the people, you've got a bunch of sales. And then because you were in the process of just working those deals and not doing the lead generation, it comes back down. So we do this roller coaster. What are some of the ways that we can, for you and your team, to alleviate that roller coaster where you're still processing deals? Maybe it's a system piece, maybe it's a mindset piece, maybe it's a piece that you bought for your company, right? Like we have assistants that we've hired. We're hiring we're bringing on agents on our team. What are some of the things that you're doing to prevent those valleys and those peaks?
So the key is in the consistency with the prospecting, with everything that you do within your daily schedule. That will eventually produce over time. It will produce the average of the result that you're expecting. But real estate is a cyclical business. I mean, we're busier in the spring and the summer in Austin than we are in the winter months, and that's always how it's been. That's always how it's going to be. And so I think one of the most important things for us is on the financial side, on the back end of the piece, making sure that we're understanding what does our monthly overhead look like. And so we have to look at every month. We have once a month, my wife and I have a meeting, and we sit down and we look at all of our business expenses for the month and all of our personal expenses for the month. What was spent, what was brought in, what was left over, right? And we've kind of put ourselves on a salary, right, so to speak, so that I know what my monthly survival number looks like to pay for my family and, put food on the table and send my kids to school and do all the things I need to do on a monthly basis, provide health insurance, etc. And I know that based on that, also what our monthly overhead as a business on the business side looks like. And so from there, I can put those two numbers together, and that's my survival number that I've got to produce monthly. And there's going to be sometimes inevitably when the market's slower and you're going to be below those numbers. And so one of the things that you've got to do is, I think, automate your savings. And so we did that early on, and you try to grow that a little bit each year. But I mean, just it's funny. I was looking at some math the other day, and if you put automatic savings into a brokerage account, if you assume, you're putting money into an index fund like S&P 500 index fund or et cetera, $100 a month at age 35, by the time you're 65, is about $226,000. So if you put $100 a month at age 35, over a 30-year period, you'll have 226,000 when you get to be 65 years old. If you start that 10 years younger, when you're 25, you'd have 630,000 instead of 225. So you almost 2.5x your investment simply by giving yourself an extra decade. And I mean, $100 a month, honestly, I mean, that's going out to the bar twice in your 20s, that's going to Starbucks a couple times a week. It's not that much really when you think about it. And so I think if you automate those things, but ultimately what that does is it gives you the cash cushion and the reserve, a liquidity, so that when you are in a slower period seasonally, that you can weather those storms and still be able to sleep at night.
All right. So, I mean, that's pretty fair. But as far as systems in place, when you're getting busy, what are some of the things that we should be doing to make sure we have long term, right? So you're meeting with developers and you're working on projects that are going to close a year from now, right? We're working with clients buying new construction. So 6 months, 8 months from now, I'm going to have closings maybe when it is slower. What are some other things that we should be doing to prep ourselves besides saving, right? I know I could tell you my second year in the real estate, I was going dead broke because we were spending money on all of these things we thought were getting us business. We had to really sit back and cut the fat on all of these things, websites, CRMs that we weren't using, realtor.com leads, whatever they were, we had to cut it all out. So what are
Yeah.
the things that we should be doing to help in that regard as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really where the monthly budgeting comes in. And so if you're looking at your finances every month and you know where your money's going, then you've got the ability to be able to make really informed decisions. Because I think a lot of those automated subscriptions, right? Softwares, website costs, advertising, et cetera, that's what starts to get you when the market slows, And so if you're looking at um, the dollars that are coming in every month, and you're also looking at your pipeline of the deals written, you can project out 30, 60, 90 days. Okay, I've got, five deals in escrow, and one's closing next month, two are closing the month after that, and then maybe two are new construction that they're 6 months out. But you can project looking forward the revenue that you've got coming in the door, and then it's up to you. You've got to know, what does your monthly overhead look like? And if the numbers aren't matching up, you've got to either work harder and go out and get some more sales, do some extra prospecting that month, or you've got to cut expenses. And our rule of thumb is 3 months. So if we miss our number 3 months in a row, you got to cut.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's where man, I wasted so much money now that I think about it. Even now, I feel like there's stuff that we have, we have so many things that are given to us with our brokerage. I feel like some people just don't utilize them enough, and they're there and they're free tools to actually use. But it's one of those things, if you're not going to use the tools, then why pay for them? So that's why you really need to look at some of those tools that you're using. If I had to get business tomorrow, if I was like, all right, look, I'm hurting, I need a closing, what would be the immediate thing you would do to get closings between now, especially now and the end of the year? Let's say, okay, we got 24 days left in the year and I need something under contract almost immediately. What are you doing right now to get something under contract immediately?
I'm gonna find either a good deal purchase opportunity, or if I've got a listing that I can position as an attractive purchase option, I'm gonna take one of those two tacks and I'm going to send out a mass communication, either video or email, to my database and our CRM distribution list. I always find that it's easier to generate business from people that you already have a relationship with, that already know who you are, that trust you, that have some level of rapport with you. And that's always, I mean, we get 80% of our business by referral. So I'm not a big web lead guy. I don't dial for dollars. I don't churn through, web lead generation. We're very relationship oriented. And I found that, back in 2008, when the market essentially stopped for 6 months in August of '08, when the market imploded, uh, our our customer relationships, our client relationships are what got us through that period of time. And as it turned out, when the market got really hard, it turned out that we had some very deep pocketed clients that said, hey, we put out an email and we said, hey, there are great deals on some of these condos that are being liquidated downtown, or there are great deals on, some properties that are pre-foreclosure at that time back in '08. And we had clients come out of the woodwork and say, hey, we want to invest, right? And so those were the closings that we had through some of the roughest periods of the real estate market. But I think you need to have, you've got to find the opportunity, and then you've got to make sure that you communicate it to as many people as will listen to you. And then you can't always know where where the business is going to come from. But what I do know is that if you're consistent with that outbound communication, however you do it, if it's video, if it's email, if it's social media, if it's phone calls, if it's, going to home builder association meetings, the business is going to come from somewhere, as long as you're doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting is like I've done some stuff on YouTube, right? So I looked at the market and where everything's moving, right? Everything's moving north. I literally looked and saw that Georgetown is the number one place people are moving to, right? Okay, I'm sorry, Tom. Uh, so what did I do the next week? I went out and shot 4 videos. One was a listing video, one was just Georgetown, another one was the neighborhoods, and then a bunch of short content about Georgetown. I can't tell you how many leads I have right now for my team, all in Georgetown, and it's a lot. So that's two is, when we're looking at the market, what's going to get us business, we got to go where the business is too. And,
Right.
there's some people that can say, okay, Lockhart is going to be the next area. If you're not in Austin, Lockhart's like Southeast, there's nothing out there. I mean, it's not worth building in. But I just read an article today. The only place that builders can buy land for an affordable price is in Lockhart. So
Mhm.
builders are going there. So that means there's going to be development there, which means that there's going to be movement towards Lockhart. So do I start talking about Lockhart? For knowing that in the future, 6, 8, 10, 12 months out, people are going to start looking at Lockhart. And then, oh, by the way, Jeremy had a video 6, 8 months ago about Lockhart. Let's find that, right? And so as people that are watching this that are interested in YouTube, project out where things are going, right? For the last year, I have not wanted to sell in Leander, Georgetown, Liberty Hill, because I'm down south and I really don't want to drive up there. In building a team, now I have the ability and the flexibility to go, okay, that's where everybody's going, and let me load the pipeline with those people. Because I know 6, 8, 10 months from now, when people start looking at Georgetown again, when people start looking at these areas, they're going to be going that way, and they're going to be calling me because I'm the one that's made the content about it. I'm the one that's made the content with legs. So for you, and what I'm hearing is if you need business right now, we're jumping in and calling the database. Well, guess what? We've done a lot of sales this year, and a lot of it came from our database, most of it from YouTube, but a lot of it was supported by our database
Mhm.
because we called our database. So if you're not calling your database, I would be on the phone today. Hey, it's Christmas time. I just want to call and wish you a Merry Christmas. I know it's been a whole year. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I've last talked to you. What's new? How are the kids? Oh, by the way, hey, look, if you ever come across anybody, just remember that I'm here to support you and help your family, right?
Yeah. Well, and an easy hook right now is, people are doing year-end tax planning. So there are people, performing sales at year ends for capital gains purposes. You get job transfers over the holidays, people trying to move their kids between Christmas break. Um, and I think being able to be geographically diverse is great when you get to the point of having a large team. I think when you have a small team, it's important to be focused, um, because otherwise you do end up driving, an hour each way all across the Metroplex. And it's hard to track. Austin now is so big as an MSA, it's hard to track every submarket of the city. Um, and so, uh, I think it's okay to be laser focused on a zip code or a particular area that you want to be involved in. But if you do that, you've got to make sure that you're making yourself known to everybody in that community,
Yep.
and but what's interesting is I mean, you talk about like the database. So we send out a market review newsletter, just kind of talking about the numbers and what we see going on in the Austin real estate market. And I had a client that we sold a property to 9 years ago reach out to me. I mean, at the time, their kids were in elementary school, and now they're girls. One's graduated from college, and the other one is on her way to graduating college. And they called us to sell their house. And so, um, but the reason that they called us is because we've kept in touch with them consistently all these years.
Nice. Well, I mean, think about it too. Well, the average person moves every, what is it, 6 years.
Mhm.
And one of the stats, if I were you, I'd be looking up the stats of the market and conveying the stats of the market. The average age, first time home buyer this last year went from 33 to 38. The
Mhm.
average home seller and buyer is 56.
Right.
So if you're making content and you're sending out stuff to people that's not even in that those ranges, you're going to struggle, right? The other thing is that, well, knowing those numbers, you can make content around that. But at the end of the day, if you've been in this business 4 or 5 years, I would be calling all of my first time home buyers and people from 4 or 5 years ago, and I would be calling them because guess what? They probably have people in their neighborhoods that they've known for 4 or 5 years that need to sell, and their neighbors maybe not haven't heard from their agent in 4 or 5 years. So if you're wanting to blow up 2025, everybody's taking off right now, right? Everybody's sleeping right now. Everybody's doing all the other things.
Mhm.
I would spend the next 2 weeks before Christmas hustling my ass off because January, February, March is when you're going to start seeing all of that in return.
One of our rules as a team is that you have to replenish your pipeline with more deals than you're closing in a month. And one of the incentives that we have for our team is that they have to generate one or more referrals from every closing that we receive. And so the whole time through that process, they have built in celebration points where they're asking for that referral. And you don't have to be salesy about it, but I set the expectation with the client on the front end. I say, hey, listen, um, we don't we don't advertise for web-based business. We rely on relationships to feed our business. And so we want this to be the best real estate transaction that you've ever experienced. And all we ask is that if we perform, that you pass our name along and share it with your friends and family and your coworkers. And then, there's at different stages through the escrow process, when they get under contract, when they get out of option, when they get final underwriting approval, when the appraisal passes, when we go to closing, we have our team asking them, hey, congratulations on getting past appraisal. As we move on to closing, if you'll just pass our name along, and you can almost make a joke out of it. You can say, uh, hey, in about 2 weeks here, we're going to be unemployed again. So if you hear of anybody, who do you know that we can talk to about a potential move or about real estate purchase? Do you know anybody that's in the need for, real estate? And so always asking is one of the key things, I think, because if you tell people, hey, we really need your help, uh, and they like you and you've done a good job for them, they want to help you, right? And they'll send you their friends and family. Oh, I think you're muted. Hey,
You're
Jeremy. I
muted,
think you're muted.
Jeremy.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. So what was interesting about the event yesterday at Tom Ferry? Tom was there. Um, Tom was talking about his great grandpa or his grandpa that served in World War II, and all the things he did. And in one of his boxes there was shrapnel that was taken from his leg, right? And so I'm talking with an agent outside. They were asking me about YouTube, and so we were chatting a little bit. And she's like, she was legitimately, I was like, well, she was telling me about this thing that I could do. And I was like, well, why wouldn't, like, you want to help me do that, but why wouldn't you do that? And she started giving me all these excuses. And I go, well, she's like, the problem is not everybody from my database is 100% in my database. So I don't have their emails. I don't have this, I don't have that. And I was like, okay, well, why don't you call them? 2,500 people. I was like, yeah, call 2,500 people, put a script together and call them and just say, hey, look, I'm trying to update my database. And I'm really sorry. Like, when everything got moved over, I don't have your updated email. I just want to call, chat with you. And then I send out a monthly market update. So if you're interested in that, I just want to put you on the emailing list. And she's like, call 2,500 people. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, hey, remember when Tom's grandpa had shrapnel taken out of his leg and jumped out of an airplane? And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. Right. And the whole moral of the story is quit being a candy ass. Right. And so look, if we really want to make it in this industry, if we really want to make it, we have to put in the work. I can tell you, everybody thinks of building, everybody tells me I want to build a YouTube channel. I built a YouTube channel when the reality is that we didn't know what was going to happen next. I'd had this YouTube channel and I was doing it wrong. And right when I figured out how to do it right, the pandemic hit. And I was like, nobody's going to watch real estate videos. Nobody cares about real estate. Everybody's going to lose their houses right now. I said, fuck it. I am going to just spend every day for all day, every hour I have in every day making video content. I legitimately put out every day. I was spending 18 to 19 hours a day shooting and editing videos every single day. Today, I'm making over 7 figures every year from that hard work. So why I say that is not to gloat or to say anything about myself. It's that if you want 2025 to be a big year, you're gonna have to put in the work. You're gonna have to pick up the calls. You're gonna have to set the goals and expectations and know that there are gonna be highs and lows. And what I love about what we're talking about here is, hey, look, you're going to get burnt out. What are the things to not get burnt out? Because to hit all those goals and create all those goals, you're going to go through it. So Blake, for you, what are some of those things to not get burned out when we're trying to achieve those goals?
It's protecting that time with my family. So,
Yeah.
We can be a high producing office and I'm still there for my kids' sports practices at 5 o'clock. I'm present at their games on the weekends. I go to church with my wife on Sunday. We get our date night in once or twice a month. So it's protecting those things. And then also my personal time. So time for me to go out, and I like to bike. So go out and ride my mountain bike or go to the gym and exercise and kind of de-stress a little bit, because I find that if I don't take care of those things, then I can't operate, right? It's nothing else matters if that part of my life is out of balance. So and then that always reminds me of what my why is. So when I'm in the office and I don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody, or I don't want to send that email or make that video, that helps remind me why I'm doing it.
Yeah, remembering the why. Right? Remembering the why. We set the goals. Now it's to remember the why. All right. Well, I'm going to open this up to Q&A for a minute here, and then I want to hear from Blake about his movement, bringing his brokerage over. But what questions do we have right now? Frank, what do you got? Tom, what do you got? Rebecca, good to see you. You're in here. Jeffrey Cohen, man, good to see you, buddy. My NYC fam. Jacqueline, who's got questions for Blake here? What are some problems you're facing right now? What are some things that we can answer for you? Just feel free to unmute.
I guess I'll go. I mean, I live in Manhattan, so it's more vertical living, a little different, but I've kind of mastered. So we have like vertical farms. So like I have 600 people in my building as an example. And I killed it. I got lucky, not lucky, but hard work. I became the number one agent in the building. But I'm finding it really tough to go outside the building in other neighborhoods. There's over like, 40,000 agents in our area. So I hear, Jeremy doing YouTube and you're doing some fantastic things. I guess the question is like, how do you go ahead and start farming outside when you can't really get face to face?
Here, I'll take this one. So I started my career in downtown Austin. I actually started working for high-rise condo developers in the early 2000s. And one of the things that I did during the recession was I became best friends with all the concierge staff in all the buildings that I wanted to work in. So I would go around and I would take them baskets of food. I would take them holiday gifts. I would go and check in on them. If they needed somebody's dog needed to be walked, I'd go walk the dog for them. Like I was just always going by to check on the concierge staff and see how things were going. And what came of that was over a period of time, like there was one building in particular, it was 26 floors. We became the dominant agent in that building for several years. And and one of the things that those staff they turn over, right? And so you have to always be staying on top of it because a lot of times they'll get a new night person that's there on the night watch, or they'll get a new assistant GM for the building. But you're trying to make yourself useful and be valuable. Also, a lot of times they would ask us for information. They would say, "Hey, did this unit it was up for lease and we don't know if it leased yet or not, but we're supposed to have a copy of the lease on file." And I'd say, "Oh, let me check in MLS and I'll see if it's closed yet." And if it would, I would get that and I would send them the agent's contact info, right? And say, "Hey, here, reach out, they'll have a copy of the lease." And so you're just trying to bring value for whatever that concierge staff needs, but that would be the tack that I would take.
I love it.
That's brilliant. And yeah, I think it's the thing that we're all afraid of most, right? Is the elbow grease. It's the face to face. I could tell you, I don't love having to get in front of, you know, doing that, making phone calls, but it's those things that are going to make us money next year, right? Especially in a time when there's like in New York, 40,000 agents, Austin's 20,000 agents, the Woodlands area has got Frank, so he's running it all, but there's nobody else. Frank's the only one.
Jeff, are you doing any mailing farming?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, my mailers kill it. So my direct mail,
okay.
I'm small relative to some other people, but I send out about 2,000 postcards at least once a month.
Mhm.
And then I stole some from our ecosystem that worked really well, like before and after of how we did it. So always providing value. So that works pretty well. It works
What about
phenomenal in my building. So I don't really get calls or something off my postcards, but people will see me and they'll say like that postcard was fantastic or like whatever.
they
So great
recognize
people
you?
tell me. So like I sent one out of my family, we did Ghostbusters and I said, who are you going to call? Because we were all dressed up in Ghostbusters and people loved it. So like I got so many comments, just general, it was great. So I do direct mail a lot. But it's not that effective unless I follow it up with something else in other neighborhoods.
Another thing that we've done is geofencing. Have you done any geofencing ads? So
Not
where
necessarily. I do some Facebook where I'll load my custom audience, but I haven't done, I'm not quite sure what that entails.
So geofencing is essentially where you can pick a spot on a map through some of these different online ad servers, and you can put a pin on, pick an address, 100 Broadway Avenue or whatever in Manhattan, and it will feed ads to cell phone devices that are physically walking through that area. And so if you're trying to hit a building, you can pick up people that are walking by on the sidewalk, right? And I would probably just do something simple like click here for a market report or for data on this building or this neighborhood, and have it link back to a landing page on your website with updated current information on the listings or the recent solds.
That's great.
Um,
Is it that through Google or is that through just a?
there's a platform called Ground Truth that you can do it through, but there's a couple of them out there that offer the same thing. But essentially, it's mapping a specific area, and when people walk by with their cell devices, it's gonna feed typically like publisher ads. So like if you're on Apple News or you're on Yahoo or some other website, it's gonna feed one of those banner ads, and you design the ad and upload it.
No, these are great ideas.
And
I
for
love
those,
them.
we make them neighborhood or property specific. So it doesn't have to be, it's just link to the market data, because that's typically what people want. They want to know what's available and what's sold.
I, being the video guy, I would find the building that you're looking to sell in, right? Obviously, like, let's say it's not the building you're in now and you want to send mailers like you were talking about. I would send mailers, and then I would create a video about that specific building. I would ask people that live there. I would ask the concierge. I would ask everybody, like whoever would want to be on video. Maybe you sold a unit in there. You can do a video talking about some of the units that are for sale in there. You could talk about the complex and what people like about it, and then ask like people that live there, like, hey, well, what do you like about living here? Ask the concierge, what do you like? And just put them on video. And now, and then as you're mailing, put a QR code for that video. Want to see what your neighbors say about this building, and then they can QR code it. It goes to that video, and then you could, retarget those people as well. So that's, being the video guy, that's what I would do, is just create a whole video about 100 Broadway,
Last night, one other thing that we used to do for the concierge was they always had like you'd always have people walking in and out with their pets. And so we got these nice kind of glass jars with our logo on them that were etched on them. And then we'd fill them with dog biscuits, and we'd go by and give them to the concierge and be like, here, just keep this on hand for your residents. And so they would pass them out. And it was kind of just an indirect way that people would see our name on the jar on the desk and be like, oh yeah, they gave them to us. And so it's just another way of creating awareness within the community of who you are.
Keep talking. This is amazing. I love it.
That's a brilliant one right there. Actually, I like that one a lot.
Because that's every
dogs are
building
like
has
people's
that.
third child or second child or first in some cases. So yeah, another member of the family. So you take care of their dog, and it usually does well.
That one's brilliant. I love that one, because then what a dog biscuits run a month, like $50. So you just go back through and like, hey, it's me again. I wanted to come say hi. Oh, by the way, here's another bag of treats to throw in our bowl that's on your desk right there. I want to keep you filled up.
Well, and it gives you an excuse to have FaceTime with the staff, right? So instead of just walking in and going, hey, how's your Tuesday going? You go, oh, hey, I'm just bringing you some more dog treats. Hand these out to your residents if anybody wants them.
That's great.
That's the coolest idea I've ever heard, actually. Put a QR code on there too. Boom.
Like it.
I do a donut drop every third Friday at my daughter's school, and they love it. I mean, my car's wrapped too, so they already kind of know it's me, and they like getting a lot of good traction there. So they oh, Mr. Ortiz, thank you so much. Oh my God, we love the donuts. So I'm so I get it when instead of like, hey, I'm a realtor, I just kind of give them donuts.
I'm gonna get one of those cars and wrap it like Ken Posick did, and go to the school that my son goes to. Just QR code the crap out of it and let the air out of all the tires. Well, oh, sorry, I've got to get it towed. Sorry, and let it sit there for a week at a time. Come
Not a
buy
bad
it, air
idea.
back up, and drive it off. It's a good one. All right. Well, we're at an hour. I was planning on letting Blake talk about his move to Real, but we actually have a full video that we have on our YouTube channel that I've done with Blake. So if you want to see that, you can find it on there. But again, every Friday we do Agent Tactics. We appreciate you coming on. There is an event before you go. There is an event on Wednesday with Sharon. I put it in the chat earlier. I'm going to re-put it in the chat. If you're in Austin, we're doing a watch party for this. But if you're not in Austin, it's online. And it's a business planning for 2025. And if you haven't ever heard Sharon talk, I think this is going to be one of the best events that he's going to do. It's an hour and a half business planning for 2025. I would take this link. I would register if you're not in Austin. If you are in Austin, reach out to me and I can get you the in-person. We're going to have lunch and a bunch of fun stuff around it. There are no sales pitches at this event for Real at all. We just want you to come learn and make the agent community better in 2025. So Blake, I appreciate you. We will, depending on how well this does, we'll have to bring you back real soon.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.